Welcome to this video. Thank you for joining. I wanted to make a video on the relationship between the personal and the collective unconscious, but I was thinking instead it may be interesting to talk about some reasons why Jungian psychoanalysis is interesting or relevant for our everyday lives. And okay, I have not prepared this video very well because I just thought it would be cool to talk about it. So I'll just talk and see. I think the first aspect we definitely have to mention is the interesting perspective psychoanalysis offers us in general to sort of go beyond what is interesting or what is apparent in life, to sort of, there's this layer behind what appears to us in everyday lives, what we encounter, and everything is sort of, and I think this is specific, it's not necessarily specific to Jungian psychoanalysis, it's also present in Lacanian or Freudian analysis, I guess, but everything we encounter is sort of charged with meaning. It's this, I think Jungian psychoanalysis takes this specific perspective of viewing everything as meaningful or potentially meaningful to us and to the general unfolding of life, let's say. And I think this is where the main aspect that I think is interesting about Jungian psychoanalysis is its connection to this principle of synchronicity, and by virtue of that principle, its connection with Taoism and Taoist metaphysics, let's say. And here I think this aspect of every element of the occurrences in everyday life being meaningful becomes especially pertinent. If we think about, for instance, the fact that sort of in this synchronistic pool of, let's say, being, let's say, everything is converged, right? Everything is connected, so that a movement in one element of reality, emulates movement in the whole of it, right? And so the idea is that basically by observing, let's say material reality, events in material reality, we can see reflected what occurs in our individual, but then ultimately our collective minds. Like the differences between these boundaries simply sort of, vanish. And I think this is best illustrated maybe by a story that I hope I'll recall correctly from it's a Chinese tale, I think, if I remember correctly. And it's basically, there's this dynasty, and they're I hope I remember correctly. I don't think I do. Okay, so there's a dynasty, and the king or queen is being tyrannical, I think, or on the verge of that, and so she gives a certain mountain a name, right? So she names that mountain, and the reason why she does that is because on the mountain it's a mountain, and then there's water, right, in the mountains, because it was a volcano, and now it's a mountain lake, right? So and that corresponds to a specific sign in the I Ching, which is the Chinese book of wisdom, or fortune telling, but wisdom, I think, more likely. And so some wise person says, sort of diagnoses this state, like the fact that she gave the name to this mountain, and the mountain came to be the way the mountain is for this wise man a reflection of the state of the dynasty at that time, which is tyrannical, because that sign somewhat corresponds to this, signifies this tyranny. And it's just, okay, so maybe the story was bad because I don't recall it properly, but it illustrates this sort of this interlinking of the occurrence of a physical and actual event, which is there's a mountain and a lake has formed in it after the eruption of a volcano, and this queen, I think it was a queen, named the mountain that a certain name, and then this wise man saying, oh look, this is, it's not even a value judgment, right? It's the observation of this occurrence. And I think this is very interesting when the unconscious for Jung has actually creative powers, right? It's not only a repository of repressed childhood, infantile desires or something, but it has this creative and transformative power and direct life of its own, let's say, right? I think this is another interesting point, where not only in our everyday lives do we have this almost obligation, let's say, or responsibility to observe what's out there and what's happening around us, but we directly have an impact on everything that's around us, and everything around us has a direct impact on us by virtue of us being connected with everything that's out there in the space of the collective unconscious, right? And this is not some hippy dippy shit where you say like, sorry, I cursed, this YouTube gonna ban, or maybe YouTube's gonna ban this video, but not some hippy dippy kind of thing where we think, oh, we're all connected and soulmates or something. But it's more that, we cannot deny the fact that the occurrence of, let's say, a catastrophe somewhere in the world somehow affects us on an unconscious level. It's not like I'm consciously thinking, oh, a war in Ukraine, that's bad, but there is something, there's a fear that is deeper than the personal, you know what I mean? And it's also deeper than, let's say, the ancestral, in terms of a ancestral trauma. I think, I'm convinced that that's the case. And this is on the other hand, though, there's a voice to listen to, and as much as the unconscious is also a voice to listen to in other theories of psychoanalysis, because it tells you about your essentially the reason why certain behaviors occur on the level of consciousness. In Jungian psychoanalysis, it's a voice to listen to that tells you the story of humankind in a lot of ways, and the story of the presence, most importantly. And the presence is always the manifestation of this infinite process of unfolding that's going to continue after you, right? You are, in a sense, the presence. Only for Jung, he writes about this in his collected work, Civilization and Transformation. I think that's the title. Zivilisation und Übergang in German, where he says, someone that lives in the presence is someone that observes the presence and is present in the presence. And he says that's very few people, right? So because he's writing this essay on, the state of the psyche, or I think even as the state of the female psyche in the present. This is post-World War II. And he says, look, it's very difficult to comment because there's very few people that are present, right? Many people linger in the past, and they linger in memories. And I think Jungian psychoanalysis gives you this opportunity to observe what impact this entire history you're carrying has, and how it unfolds in the present. Not only by looking inward, right? I think people commonly associate Jungian psychoanalysis with this inward notion, or inward turn, where you draw mandalas and you're kind of contemplating and meditating. So I think it's very much calling upon us to look outward and go outside, kind of thing, and to see, okay, well, there's, what does it mean that certain things co-occur? What does it mean that certain people perform certain actions? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a cultural critic, but the understanding that there's a direct link between all of these occurrences, I think, is something very valuable to take from the Jungian approach to psychoanalysis. And humility, I think, most importantly, right? Humility that there's not just the ego and its associated sort of appendix, a repository of trauma, that we are not an island, that there is a community, a base for community. I think that's something very important to consider as well, because in normal psychoanalysis, or in Lacanian, in Freudian psychoanalysis, there is a level of communication, but communication is a struggle. Let's say it's difficult. It's a problem, right? And it's a source of trauma, being misunderstood. And I think it's the same in Jungian analysis, but there's also a level of connection that's deeper, that's not present in other views on the psyche. And that connection pertains not only to individuals, but it's on the level of, let's say, the entire world of appearances, right? So, okay, I think that's it for now. I may make a second part of this that's more structured, just so you know. If you're interested, thank you for watching and have a good day.